My name is Paul Becker. I serve as the president and founder of Dynamic Church Planting International, based in California. We train leaders to plant dynamic churches worldwide. God has given you great favor. He has grown your ministry in wonderful ways. And I want to meet with you and hear how God has moved in your life, learn from you, discover how the King wants us to partner together to expand His kingdom around the globe. God has also given His favor to Dynamic Church Planting International. Since we started in 1995, the King of Kings has used DCPI to train over 41,000 leaders to establish churches in 91 countries. Some leaders we train don't plant any churches, but some leaders plant many churches.
There are normally about 250 or 300 people in this church on a Sunday, but the most amazing thing about this is that he has planted 55 daughter churches out of this church. Now, how many churches per year have you planted since you were trained by DCPI?
Within the space of 4 years, I have been able to plant 20 churches from here.
Wow, that's amazing. And 5 churches a year.
Yes.
Research tells us that the average leader we equip plants 2.73 churches in the 5 years after training. Our most accurate projection is that God is using DCPI trained leaders to plant 113,000 churches worldwide. Research reveals that each church disciples an average of 46 new believers. So over 5.2 million new believers are being discipled in these new churches globally. Now, our training is based on biblical principles, which is the only reason that it works in every country.
God called me to my people, the Messiah, in 1996. There were almost no Christians, but I had such a deep burden, for they were in great bondage. They became furious with me, and while I was preaching to a large group, men attacked me with iron rods and Messiah weapons. I shielded my head with my Bible, which was torn apart. You could see my dried blood. Because I was burdened, I came back again and again, and people began to come to Christ, but they had no church. I wanted to plant a church, but I didn't know how until I attended a DCPI training. I've since planted 3 churches and hope to train and mentor other pastors to do the same.
There are 2 big problems that we must solve. First, there are not enough churches to win and disciple Christians in this world. Since 1970, the number of Christians has increased by almost 1 billion. That's an increase of more than 83%. But the number of churches has only increased by 19%. So as a result, many new believers are not getting discipled. They're not experiencing the life of Christ. They have no church, and that is heartbreaking. Second, there's a training famine in many countries. In some first world countries, there are many options. But in many third world countries, there's a massive training famine. Hundreds of thousands of leaders are called by God to plant churches, but they just don't know what to do. So often the church dies or the leader leaves the ministry. What a tragedy. Well, God gave birth to a mission in 1995 to provide a solution to these problems. Dynamic Church Planting International. We're called by God to equip leaders to plant dynamic churches globally. The best way to reach people for Christ and disciple them is to establish a new church close to them. And the best way to establish a new church is to train those leaders well. And that's what we do at Dynamic Church Planting International. In 2008, during a prayer retreat, the King of Kings gave me his vision for DCPI, equipping leaders to plant 5 million dynamic churches to reach the world for Christ. The world needs 5 million new churches to disciple hundreds of millions of people for Jesus, to give them a church home where they can grow in the Lord, to complete the Great Commission, to transform our world. God is fulfilling His 5 million church vision. He is bringing church and mission leaders together. The King is partnering us together to train leaders worldwide in how to plant churches using Bible principles. Each of our training tracks takes just 3 days, and we can certify your trainers in just 2 additional days. And then your certified trainers can go anywhere around the world and equip church planters, extending your kingdom impact. God is leading us to start a new holiday to see the 5 million churches planted around the world. It's called Global Church Planting Sunday. It's going to take place on the 2nd Sunday of February every year. And on Global Church Planting Sunday, pastors will preach about church planting. They'll talk about their own church planting projects. Pastors will raise funds for church planting and training and missionaries. We're going to create a website with many tools that you can use to communicate about Global Church Planting Sunday with your people. Is God calling you to partner with us in Global Church Planting Sunday? The very first one in history will be February 12th, 2012. Set aside that day to teach your people how to reach the world for Christ. Partner with us in equipping leaders to plant 5 million dynamic churches to reach the world for Christ. And partner with us to train leaders to plant dynamic churches in all 239 countries of the world by 2020.